This is not clickbait. I decided to reprint and rebuild my entire guitar because of a coffee cup. Let me explain. Hello, my name is Chad at Metalhead Maker on most socials. I'm building a 3D printed guitar right now that is kind of out of control at this point. I've got a ton of other videos on my channel if you want to go check it out to catch up to where we're at right now. But I made a whole bunch of progress on some problems I was having with noise in the system on the last episode. As is the theme with this project, I've now found a new problem to obsess over. Since I've got all these electronics in the guitar, naturally I'm going to have wiring, and I've got a ton of that in the neck. A lot of it's for the LEDs, but there's also wiring that goes all the way up to the headstock, and that is for these mechanical tuners that I'm going to have wired into the guitar's main circuit board. And I should probably clarify, yes, this guitar has a circuit board. If you haven't seen the other videos, you might want to go watch those to catch up. But the circuit board has a microcontroller that can talk to those guitar tuners and tune the guitar for me, theoretically. But that's neither here nor there. Really, the important thing here is that I'm trying to figure out how to deal with all those wires, because anytime I take the guitar apart and put it back together, every time I do that, it damages the wires just a little bit. And I've been dealing with this problem for, as long as I've been putting this guitar together, because the idea originally was to have this little wire harness that just feeds through the body. And see, this is a balance that I'm constantly struggling with this project, because I need to have as much mass on the body as possible to handle all of the pressure from the strings, but at the same time, I need to have holes in the body to be able to route things. So this is where the coffee cup enters the conversation. My wife is super bougie. She has one of these coffee cups that keeps the coffee hot all morning, which I don't understand because I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm a sugar cream drinker with a dash of coffee. And that's only tolerated because of the caffeine. But anyway, one day she comes up to me and says,
"My coffee cup's not charging."
And I say, "Are you sure that it's actually sitting on the charging base properly?" And then she gives me the look. You know the look. I go to take a look at it. I try to put the cup on the plate, and that's not charging. So I look a little closer at the bottom of the base, and I see these two little prongs sticking up that are clearly meant to connect with the little metal rings on the bottom of the coffee cup. I see that these prongs are actually little pins that have springs in them to compress when the coffee cup is put down on the mat. One of those pins had a broken spring, and I just needed to order a replacement. I hopped on AliExpress. Long story short, I got that taken care of. She has hot coffee again. So what does this have to do with the guitar? Why couldn't those springs be used to connect the guitar's neck to the body? And that's all it took to start another spiral project. But I got to make space for all those pins in the heel of the neck, so I'm not going to just route it out or something. I need to redesign it, and now I'm reprinting the neck. Again. But this time I'm adding just a little bit more space in the support channel so I can increase the thickness of the carbon fiber strips that run the length of the neck. You know, the last neck that I printed, it was a little more wobbly than I wanted, so hopefully this will firm it up quite a bit. Now that the neck has a carve out for those spring-loaded pins, I can figure out how I'm actually going to build them in the real world. Thankfully, I already bought the pins, but I had to find a way to get them all together on one little circuit board so it could connect to the other side. So I rummaged through my parts and figured out that I had some 20mm prototyping board, but it's kind of long, so I just lop off the edges in roughly a square on each side, and then use those as sort of mirrors to sandwich together when both of the parts connect. So after a bunch of little decisions to make sure that everything fit right and the wires didn't get cramped or crossed, I came up with this final configuration, which honestly it's perfect, because not only do I have all those pins tightly condensed into one little spot, but I also have one missing pin on purpose that I can sort of use as a key to make sure that the body and the neck are meeting properly and that I don't have anything crisscrossed or backwards. Don't get me wrong, it was really brutal to wire up those teeny tiny pins and have them not fall out as soon as the solder touched them, but eventually it came together really nicely. So I am pretty proud of it. When I said I made a bunch of little design decisions, I should have said I made some major design decisions. I moved the bolt pattern of the neck just to make sure that I had plenty of space for that circuit board to fit. I didn't think twice about that until I went to connect it to the core of the guitar. I'm sure you can see where this is going. For about 2 seconds, I genuinely thought about just filling the holes and re-drilling them. I don't have like OCD or something, but I don't think that I could live with myself if I did that. So back to the drawing board, time to reprint the core again. And I know that sounds like a big setback, and it is, but when you work with a part that much, especially during prototyping, you tend to bang it up a lot, and you also find little tiny things that you can improve while you're doing all this work. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I wasn't that heartbroken. So while that's reprinting, I'm just doing some test fitting and looking over the rest of the parts, and I realize it's not just the core, it's the body too. And then I just printed the neck. I have reprinted the entire guitar up until this point, except the top. Here we are with this new shell of a guitar, which admittedly it's nice because it's not all nicked up and I haven't like cut little holes in it to route things. It's brand new. I set it down next to the existing version and I'm looking at these two thinking, I have to rip out all of the electronics and migrate them. All of that shielding tape is now worthless. I have to do that again if I'm going to do it. I know that eventually I'll probably want to go back in and put the shielding tape in, but I'm going to leave that towards the end of the build because I think I'm going to spend a lot more time refining and tweaking that, so I might as well get the guitar together before I start messing with it. So now with all the remodeling and reprinting and wiring of the neck, I now have to deal with the wiring in the body of the guitar because obviously I still have to get those pins that connect on the base of the body to the main circuit board, and I wanted to be a little more methodical about how I did this versus last time when I just had some loose pins that I connected to it. So I bought this huge roll of ribbon wire and I bought these crimping connectors that made the job so much easier to connect this versus having to solder in or manually construct these little DuPont pins. As a bonus, those crimping connectors push the wires to the side, so that gives me a little more headroom, so when I put the guitar back together, everything isn't getting crushed and stressed. Now with that harness connected to the main circuit board, I can route those wires back through the body and the wires will get soldered onto this little prototyping board to connect those pins and allowing the signals to travel when the neck pins come in contact with the mirror board on the body of the guitar. So after everything is said and done, I went from this to this. I am a very happy Chad right now because I am so tired of trying to feed those wires through and not break them in the process. I've got so much to tell you about the fretboard next, but I don't want to drag this out forever and keep, you know, delaying videos. In the next video, I will cover the fretboard in its entirety and how that all wires in with the pins. So hopefully here pretty soon we can actually put this thing together. Finally. In the meantime, if you have any questions or thoughts, you can leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back very soon with another video. See ya.